You're listening to the Health, Tech, and Wellness Podcast, where we cut through the noise and get straight to what really works for real people. This is more than just losing weight. It's about gaining life and doing the things you never thought you could do, building lasting confidence and creating a body and mind you truly love. I'm your host, John Adams. I've spent years refining a transformative, sustainable plan that's realistic, balanced, and proven to work. I've lost over 100 pounds using this plan, and I'm on a mission to share the strategy that changed my life and help others by sharing what I've learned to help build the life they truly deserve. Ever feel like you're on the right track, finally making progress, and then out of nowhere, you just stop? You slip back into your old habits and you tell yourself, you'll start again on Monday. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, why do I keep doing this at all? This cycle, it's not about willpower. It's not about discipline. It's deeper than that. Today, we're going to break it all down. Why we sabotage our success, especially when it comes to building healthier, happier lives. And more importantly, how do we finally break this cycle? Welcome to episode 9 of the Health, Tech, and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, John Adams. And today we're tackling something that holds so many of us back: self-sabotage. And if you're new here, welcome. This podcast is all about cutting through the noise to help you build a healthier, happier, balanced life without all the gimmicks. I know this one hits home for a lot of us. So let's break it down together. Number 1, you're doing great all week. And then the weekend hits. And suddenly, it's a free-for-all. Monday through Friday, you're on point. You're eating balanced meals, getting your workouts in, feeling great. But the moment the weekend rolls around, boom, pizza, takeout, desserts, drinks, all of it. And look, I get it. The weekend feels like a break, right? A reward for the effort that you've been putting in all week. But here's the problem. If your weekends are completely undoing the progress you made Monday through Friday, then what really changed? It's like taking 2 steps forward and then running straight back to where you started. Ever said to yourself, I'll get back to it on Monday, only to repeat the cycle every week? That's self-sabotage. But this is not the same as the Grace 5%. Here's where a lot of people get tripped up. There's a huge difference between allowing yourself flexibility and completely throwing in the towel. The Grace 5% is intentional. It's about balance. It's that small part of your routine that lets you enjoy life without the guilt while still making progress. Self-sabotage is reckless. It's when you abandon your goals for a few days, promising yourself you'll fix it later. Why do we all do this? So how do we stop? How do we spot this? How do we fix it? Well, here's the difference. The Grace 5%. You have one slice of pizza and you move on. You enjoy one planned dessert and you still hit your goal for the day. You go out with friends, enjoy your meal, and you don't feel the need to restart on Monday. But what about self-sabotage? You have one slice of pizza, which turns into 4 slices of pizza, plus a side of, I'll just start over on Monday. You eat way beyond what feels good just because it's the weekend. You ditch workouts completely and you tell yourself it doesn't matter because Monday's a fresh start. See the difference? One keeps you in control. The other is all or nothing. The key is this. Learn to enjoy food without guilt while keeping your habits intact. You do not have to start over if you never completely fall off. So how do we prepare for the Grace 5% so we don't turn it into a huge binge? One of the biggest mistakes people make when they know they're going out to eat or having a special meal is saving calories by skipping food all day long. You know what I'm talking about. You've got a party, a date, or dinner plans, so you eat almost nothing all day to make room for the meal. But by the time that you get there, you're starving, your energy's so short, and suddenly, boom, you're overeating everything in sight. This is how self-sabotage sneaks in through the back door. Instead of saving calories, prepare yourself so you can actually enjoy the meal without going overboard. So, how do we do this? Start your day with a solid breakfast. Instead of skipping meals, eat something balanced early in the day so you don't go into the event starving. A protein-packed breakfast, eggs, Greek yogurt, hearty vegetables. All of this is going to keep all your cravings in check. Don't go into a meal on an empty stomach. That's the worst thing you could ever do. Do not go into these meals for our Grace 5% with a binge and restrict attitude. It's never going to get you there. That's not how Grace 5% works. If you do it the right way and you have that healthy breakfast or heartier breakfast and maybe a little snack, this way when you get there, you can enjoy your meal without feeling like you have to inhale everything at the table. On top of that, hydrate before you go. Sometimes what you think is hunger is actually dehydration. Drink a full glass of water before heading out to an event. It makes a huge difference in your appetite control. Know what matters to you most. When you get there, what do you actually want to enjoy? Is it the bread basket? Is it a cocktail or a beer? Is it the dessert? Pick one or two of those things that you really want to enjoy and enjoy them without guilt. No need to taste test everything just because it's there. Eat slowly and check in with yourself. The best way to avoid a binge is pay attention while you're eating. Take a pause halfway through. Enjoy your time with your company and ask yourself this: am I still really hungry, or am I just eating because it's in front of me? 9 times out of 10, you're already satisfied before the plates even finish the first time. So before you tell yourself, it's fine, I'll start over on Monday, ask yourself this: am I giving myself intentional flexibility, the Grace 5%, or am I completely checking out and undoing all of my progress? Because at the end of the day, the weekend doesn't have to be a setback. When you prepare ahead of time, you enjoy the Grace 5% without spiraling into self-sabotage. And that's how you stop the weekend regret cycle once and for all. Okay, I know that was a long one, but I had to say it because let's be honest, the weekend trap is where most of us have fallen off at some point, and I really, really needed to make sure that we're crystal clear here. The difference is this: sabotage and the Grace 5%. Because if we're not careful, it's way too easy to blur the line between the two. That's why I call it living 95. The 95% is the most important part. That 5% grace is just what it is. So you got to know the difference, and you got to be able to live that balance. One, it's completely intentional. It's balance. The other is a full-on backslide disguised as flexibility. And if you mix them up, you're going to find yourself spinning in circles, constantly starting over instead of actually making progress. This is a key part of living 95, knowing how to enjoy life without derailing everything that you've worked for. So now that we've got that all locked in, let's keep moving on. Number 2, you lose weight. You start feeling good, and then almost on cue, you fall off track. This one's a little tricky because it doesn't seem intentional at first. You start seeing results. The scale moves, clothes start to fit better. You feel more confident. And then out of nowhere, you stop doing what's working. Maybe you start skipping workouts. Maybe you start slipping back into old eating habits. And the worst part, you can't even explain why. So what's happening here? Why do we self-sabotage after making so much progress? Because success, it feels so unfamiliar to us. If you've spent years struggling with your weight, success might not feel like you at all. Your brain is wired for comfort, and sometimes struggle is what's familiar. So even though you want success, your subconscious just pulls you right back to what feels normal. This is why so many people lose weight and then gain it all back. They never work on shifting their identity. So their brain finds a way to return them to where they believe they belong. And trust me, I did this for over 20 years before I started living 95. So have you ever found yourself thinking, this is too good to be true? When things start going well, your brain starts fighting against success. But there's another layer to this, the dopamine effect. This is where things really start to make sense, because this is not about willpower or habits. This is brain chemistry. The initial excitement, that's a dopamine high. When you first start losing weight, your brain is flooded with dopamine, that feel-good chemical that makes you feel motivated, excited, and unstoppable. The scale is moving, your clothes fit better, people are noticing, and you're feeling amazing, and people are going, wow, did you lose weight? How'd you do it? And this is it. Because the dopamine keeps you energized and focused, sticking to your plan feels super easy. Then the plateau hits. Suddenly the scale stops moving. You're doing everything right, but the progress slows down. That initial excitement fades, and without that dopamine rush, motivation completely tanks. It's just like buying something new. I've mentioned this in past episodes. Have you ever bought a new phone or a car or a new gadget? Man, you're super excited at first. You're planning on getting it, and then only that once you get it, the excitement fades just a few weeks later, and that dopamine, it just goes away. And the high of something new is gone. Well, that same high, that's what keeps you hooked. But once the novelty wears off, your brain stops producing as much dopamine. So the thing that once felt amazing now just feels like a chore. Weight loss is the same way. The initial excitement of progress fades, and suddenly the journey starts feeling boring. So what happens when the dopamine just completely drops out? Your brain starts looking for new dopamine hits. And guess what's a quick, easy dopamine fix? Food. Skipping workouts for Netflix, scrolling instead of meal prepping. Without even realizing it, you start craving fun food more. You start justifying skipping workouts because, I've been good. And before you know it, you're off track. You're confused and frustrated because nothing happened, yet everything feels different. So how do we keep going when the excitement fades? Here's the key. You cannot rely on motivation. You have to create a system that works even when the dopamine disappears. Stop using the scale as your only measure of success. Find other wins. Strength, energy, better sleep, how your clothes still fit better. The scale is a tool, not the only measure of progress. Make consistency the goal, not the result. Shift from I need to lose weight to I'm someone who's taking care of my health every single day. Results will come, but only if you keep going when it's boring. Anticipate the plateau and plan for it. If you know the excitement will wear off, you won't be surprised when it happens. Instead of getting frustrated, you'll recognize it as part of the process, and you'll find new ways to keep things exciting. Switch up your workouts, try new recipes, and find new ways to keep progress fun. The dopamine rush won't last forever. The excitement will fade. That doesn't mean progress has to stop. It just means you've reached the part where consistency takes over. This is where most people quit. Not because they failed, but because they didn't realize this dip is normal. This is why we start with maintenance. We don't start with a diet. Living 95 starts with maintenance. You're always in maintenance. So when plateaus happen, you're still maintaining. Eventually, your body will catch up. And now that you know better, and now you can push through it all. So let's move on to number 3. You know exercising or just moving your body makes you feel better, but somehow you just keep skipping it. You've had those days where you forced yourself to move, and afterwards, you felt amazing, right? You know that when you get up and move, your stress goes down, your energy goes up, and you just feel better overall. So why, when the moment comes to actually do it, does every excuse in the world pop into your head? Because your brain prioritizes short-term comfort over long-term benefits. In the moment, staying on the couch feels so much easier. Your brain is trying to protect you from discomfort, but at the cost of all of your goals. And let's be honest, how many times have you skipped exercising or moving your body and later regretted it? And how many times have you actually done something active and never regretted it? And here's the thing. This isn't about forcing yourself into intense workouts. It's about understanding that your body was made to move. Exercise doesn't have to be punishment. It can be something that actually makes you feel good. Moving isn't about burning calories. It's about building momentum. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. A little bit is always better than nothing. So if a full workout feels overwhelming, just move. Take a walk. Stretch for 5 minutes. Turn on some music and dance around your house. If you love lifting weights or hitting the gym, awesome, do that. If that's not your thing yet, that's okay. Maybe one day you'll get there. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to happen. This isn't about motivation. It's about rewiring your brain to stop prioritizing easy choices over the right choices. And when movement becomes a habit instead of a choice, everything else gets easier. It's just like the food piece. So number 4, avoiding opportunities because we're afraid to fail. Maybe you've wanted to apply for a new job. Maybe you want to start a podcast. Man, I struggled with this one. This is where I had to take my own advice. Or maybe you just want to launch a side hustle and do something to, keep yourself busy. But instead of going for it, you find every excuse in the book just to put it off. I don't have enough experience. What if I mess up? It's not the right time. I could do it later. And look, I say this with love, but let's call it what it is. Fear. Fear of looking stupid. Fear of being judged. Fear of failing. But here's the truth. Avoiding failure does not protect you from failure. It guarantees failure. Because if you never take the shot, you've already lost. What's something you've put off? Not because you can't do it, but because you're afraid of failing. You're afraid of the imposter syndrome. You're afraid of whatever that fear is. What's one thing? Think about that and just do it. Number 5, putting things off even when you know they'd help you move forward. This goes right along with number 4. You know that making a meal plan for the weekend would help you eat better. You know that setting a bedtime instead of scrolling on your phone all night would help you get more sleep. You know that reaching out to a friend instead of isolating yourself all day would help your mental health. But what do we do instead? We delay. Oh, I'll start next week. I'll do it when things calm down. It's too busy. Now's just not the right time. How many times do you catch yourself sitting on the couch or in bed scrolling through your phone? All that time can be used in all of these things. And if you don't, suddenly 6 months go by and nothing has changed. And if you keep waiting for the right time, you'll be waiting forever. Number 6, sticking to habits that aren't serving us just because they feel so familiar. We keep eating the same junk food. We keep putting off all of our workouts or just going for a walk or just doing any kind of movement at all. We keep going back to the same toxic relationship over and over and over. We keep doing the same things that make us feel worse because they feel safe. And this is where self-sabotage really gets us, because what's familiar will always feel safer than what's new, even if what's new is better. Have you ever found yourself choosing comfort over progress? That's your brain trying to keep things the same, even when the same is making you miserable. Does this sound familiar? It does to me. I've lived this and I still struggle with this. I have to take my own advice daily. Self-sabotage is not random. And it is not because you're lazy, weak, or unmotivated. It's actually your brain's way of protecting you from change. Because change, even positive change, can feel like a threat. But here's the good news. Once you recognize self-sabotage for what it is, you can break free from it. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. So, all right, here's the part that really blew my mind when I first learned it. Self-sabotage, like we said before, it has nothing to do about being weak, lazy, or unmotivated. But have you thought about this? Deeply rooted identity and beliefs. Ever caught yourself saying, I've always been overweight, or I'm just not that kind of person? If you've ever identified as the big guy, the emotional eater, or the one who always struggles, your brain is fighting to keep that identity. Because changing means rewiring who you think you are, and that is so uncomfortable. Perfectionism and all or nothing mindsets. How many times have you thought, if I can't do it perfectly, why bother? One small slip up makes me feel like a complete failure. So, I'm just going to quit altogether. But success isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. Stress and emotional coping. This one's huge. Is food your comfort? So if food, avoidance, or procrastination are your go-to coping mechanisms, self-sabotage is just how your brain's dealing with stress. The problem? It only makes things worse in the long run. Now that we know why we do this, let's talk about how to stop it. Number one, rewire your identity. Stop saying I always give up. Start saying I'm someone who keeps going. Shift your identity from struggling to growing. Number two, normalize imperfection. The goal is not to be perfect. It's to keep going when things aren't perfect. Instead of starting over every single time that you slip up, just keep moving forward. Number three, build systems, not willpower. Don't rely on motivation. It fades. Create routines that make success automatic. Here's an example. Set out your workout clothes the night before. Pre-plan your meals for the week. All of this is going to reduce decision fatigue. Number four, find a healthy stress outlet. If food or avoidance is your coping mechanism, replace it with something that's actually going to help. Try movement, journaling, deep breathing, music. Find what calms you without sabotaging you. Number five, identify your triggers and your patterns. Ask yourself, when do I sabotage myself the most? Is it when I'm stressed? Is it when I'm involved with social events? Or is it just the weekends? Once you see those patterns, you can start to change them. Think about this. What's one way that you've sabotaged your own success before? It doesn't have to be about food or health. It could be your mental health. It could be your job, your relationship. Now tell me what you can do differently next time. Listen, self-sabotage isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of being human. But the second you start recognizing it, that's when you start breaking free. You don't need more willpower. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be aware and make small, intentional changes. And over time, these small changes will add up to something really big, and it'll become lasting success. Thanks for tuning in to episode 9 of the Health, Tech, and Wellness Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment. And share this with a friend who needs to hear this. You know you have somebody that you can think of right now that needs to hear this. Share this with them. Together, we're building a community focused on real results, real support, and no gimmicks. This isn't just about weight loss. It's about creating a healthier, happier you. And as always, stay healthy, stay balanced, and keep driving forward. I'll see you next time.